Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome to TEDxAlexanderPark Live. I almost said Dupree Park. I think I am still having flashbacks from our event that I co-hosted with such an amazing team. Shout out to Mike Cena. Shout out to Trushar Modi. Shout out to Gina Carr. Shout out to all of our speaker coaches and managers. Shout out to our licensee, Stephen Monahan, and who is also a core organizer for this year's event. Want to know wherever you're tuning in from, even if you're watching this in the replay, which majority of people do catch the replay, just go ahead and let us know where you're tuning in from. Where are you in the world? We love to engage with you. One of the things that I love about social media is that literally you don't have to be live to have live interaction. And so make sure that you're commenting in the chat there, and then we'll make sure that we'll connect and engage with you there. Really excited to interview our guest today. We've launched this interview series to promote our main event that will be happening. Everyone write it down. February 25th, 2023 in Sugar Hill at the Eagle Arts Theater. And let me tell you something. If I weren't afraid of my ADHD getting in the way of the interview today, I would go and pull up the amazing facilities that the Eagle Arts Theater is so you can see the beauty and to see where all the action will be taking place. And so I want to make sure you mark your calendars. As of today, we are reserving the tickets to only 100 people in the audience. So if you want to make sure that you're one of 100, make sure you grab your tickets before they sell out. I anticipate they'll be sold out probably by the end of this month, if I had to guess. So grab your tickets. We want you to be in the audience, part of making the magic happen. And as we're recording our speakers and our entertainers, their talks, this will be uploaded to the YouTube channel and TEDx website and their YouTube channel as well, and where there's access to 35 plus million subscribers. Such a great opportunity to elevate ideas we're spreading into our world. Our theme this year is back to the basics. It's based upon the Lorax movie where the planet was destroyed because of profit over planet. And I believe, and we believe, that the way that we restore our natural resources, that the way that we get back to human compassion is all through the basic fundamentals of life: human interaction, love, kindness, compassion, shaking hands, looking each other in the eyes, hugging one another, valuing people. Oh, how about this? We got into this a little bit on the last stream, but having an open mind to people who may not believe what you believe. These types of concepts are ideas that we're looking for. So if you have an idea that fits that theme, make sure you submit an application. The good thing is you don't have to be President Obama or Clinton, or I'm just trying to use any names that may not be controversial right now. You don't have to be famous to apply. You just have to have an idea worth spreading and a heart worth sharing. Okay, so that's the intro for today. Let's get into interviewing our guest, Samuel Richmond, today. I met him at a chamber event, and dude's just brilliant. We sat down, we had coffee, and we just picking his brain, hearing him talk. We'll get into his company, Nvestfit, and his journey and how he got into what he's doing today. Had a lot of experience. He's a man of faith, a man of integrity, and I just found our conversation incredibly enriching. And I invited him to be on the show so that he can share a little bit of his journey and his expertise with you. So, Samuel, how you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing well. I'm fantastic, and thank you, Daryl, for having me on the show. And that's so exciting about the TEDx event in Sugar Hill, which is right down the road from us here in Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
I was out there not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, for an event, and I was just blown away because a few years ago there was like nothing.
Nothing there. Yeah.
It's like this world class downtown facility, so it's pretty awesome.
Super beautiful, man. Maybe I should pull up a picture at the end and then I'll show it. But it is classic. And what I love about it, even though it's like a brand new build, that they designed it with history in mind. It has a very historical element to it, just the way that it was designed. So it's so beautiful. Let us know a little bit about your journey and how you got into doing what you're doing today. And let us know a little bit more about what it is that you do and how you support people through financial empowerment.
Yeah, absolutely. So my journey, I would say my journey really started when I was 6 years old. Professionally, I got into the business in 2009. So we're coming up on about 14 years, and excited to be doing what we're doing. It doesn't feel like work, even though I work extremely hard. But when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life. So I guess really the catalyst and impetus for my foray into wanting to learn more about how to live financially fit, I like to say, how to build wealth, how to maintain wealth, and how to transfer wealth. Really boil down to my parents being immigrants to this country, and me being a first generation American. At the age of 6, we had the unfortunate event of getting evicted from our apartment. My dad was in grad school at Georgia State. And he lost his job, and one thing led to another. We ended up getting evicted from our residence, and that was probably the first time in my life that I realized that I didn't have money. That was before. I mean, up until then, you didn't. You're a kid. You're playing with your toys. Everything's great. And that was the first time that I really came to terms with the fact that, what our financial position was. And I just remember my mother just like crying and just that whole experience, and driving around trying to find a place to stay till about 2:00 in the morning. And then finally we ended up going to our my grandmother's house. But that experience, I remember thinking to myself, at 6 years old, one day I'm going to be successful enough to be able to buy my mother a home, and she'll never have to go through this again. So that was kind of the catalyst that sparked my interest into finding out how money works, and how to grow it, how to invest it, how to build it. And I just made that my life mission and goal to help others to be able to do that.
Man, that's super powerful. And yeah, I know what you mean. I remember I was just having this conversation with someone yesterday. I was like, I didn't know I was broke until I went over one of my he just happened to be white, but one of my white friends' house. And then I was like, oh, snaps, bro. Like, I can walk around your house barefoot? Like, and so it's that wake up call. And man, to be able to be doing what you are doing today, talk to us a little bit about that. What is it that you do, and how do you support people?
Yeah, sure. So my initial conversation with my clients really boils down around, what's most important to them. Like, I want to know your hopes. I want to know your dreams. And it might sound cheesy, but the reality is that we work with a lot of couples, especially, and even single people. And you'd be surprised or amazed at the fact that many of them have not really sat down and had a serious conversation about the future, right? Like, we kind of get together, we have kids, we're focusing on career, and before you know it, we have that aha moment, which is typically around 55-ish, between 50 and 55. But by that time, we've had 20 plus years to build, right? Intentionally build. And so working with clients that are, all across the spectrum. We have clients that are retiring. We have clients that are just getting started in life. And obviously we have kind of the folks in our age group, right? Late 30s, mid 40s, etc., that have young kids or growing kids. And so it's a privilege for me to get to understand what's most important, what's your goals, because everything we do in life, I believe, should be somewhat attached to the goals and the objectives that we want to achieve in life, right? If you fail to plan, we know the cheesy saying, you plan to fail. And it's so true. And so, I believe in helping my clients to be very intentional about living the life that they want to live and leaving the legacy that they want to leave. And all that starts with first understanding, defining, prioritizing what those goals and priorities are, putting a plan in place, and then monitoring that plan and executing on that plan throughout time.
Love it, love it, love it. Definitely want to dive into that a little bit deeper. And one of the things, since we're here, TEDx is all about ideas worth spreading. And I remember our coffee or our lunch, our brunch, whatever we had there, there was a lot of ideas being thrown around the table. Would love to know, like, when I say, what do you think is an idea worth spreading, an idea that could benefit humanity, from hearing, from learning about, whether that's within your area of expertise or not? just wanted to kind of open it up and see what do you feel is an idea worth spreading?
Yeah. So, there are a lot of great ideas out there, and we're partnered with several nonprofits in the area. Whether it's reading, kids learning how to read, literacy, whether it's clothing the homeless, providing food for the homeless. I mean, there are many different great services and programs out there. I think what's near and dear to my heart, just simply because this is my area of expertise, I think that a lot of the problems that we face in society can really boil down to lack of financial knowledge, right? Lack of financial literacy. And
Mhm.
so I've made it my mission with our Financial Fit program to really help folks to educate people and individuals and families on what it means to be financially fit. Financially fit doesn't mean, oh, I'm going to go take some money and I'm going to throw it at Bitcoin,
Mhm.
or whatever digital currency, or I'm going to go play the stock market, or I'm going to go do this and do that. Listen, financial literacy is about being intentional about making the decisions today that will make impacts, both good or bad impacts later on down the road. And so we want to make sure that we're doing a lot of those great financial fitness techniques earlier on, so that we're making better impacts later on down the road for ourselves, for our families, for our children. So I would say that if we could get to a point to where as early as kindergarten, like
Mhm.
we're starting to introduce financial fitness concepts, right? Um, Living below your means, right? Not getting into debt, or
Mhm.
different types of debt, and the various impacts that it can have, and how to manage debt responsibly.
Mhm.
How to manage credit responsibly.
Mhm.
Um, you know, I believe if we can, how to invest in real estate. What is the stock market? Why invest in the stock market, right? There
Mhm.
are a lot of things that we should be teaching our children, and we can say that it's up to the parents. And I'm in our household, in the Richmond household, we're very, very intentional about teaching our kids good money habits,
Mhm.
because it wasn't taught to me. I didn't know. I had to go figure this out by myself. But fortunately, there are things, something as simple as Monopoly. Like Monopoly is such a great game to play
Mhm.
with the family,
Mhm.
to really teach good financial concepts. And so I would just say, yeah, I think financial fitness, financial health, financial literacy, being smart with your money. It's not just about investments. It's a 360-degree view. Everything from when if you're going to go to school, what types of degrees do you take? How do you break into the career? How do you start your own business? What are the different options that are available to you? If it has something to do with money, we can be smart about how we move towards whatever that is that you're working towards.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that. I've had that thought as well, and I know several others who I would call leaders in the financial education space. And I think everyone would agree that the earlier we start, the better. I think the facilitation of that, the how of that. I know people who have attempted to do presentations to younger students, and it's been like snooze fest. Curious, what is your thoughts around like how to make that happen? Like, is it as simple as doing presentations? What are some of those habits that we can begin to teach our youth?
Yeah.
Would love to know for the people that are listening. Like, yeah, I don't want to wait until the culture changes. I don't want to wait until I feel ready, but I want to start to teach some of these things to my children now. What's the best way to go about that, and where should we start?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the good news is that, especially since 2008, there's been a major push for financial literacy,
Absolutely.
from the top down. And so there are a lot of programs out there that are gearing the information towards kids, and meeting them where they are, right? One thing I would say is that, we have to develop the information and the curriculum that's going to be geared towards, the kids for their age group, and disseminate that information in a way that's easily digestible by that age group. So I think that's important. And I think there are a lot of great programs out there that's doing that. I think initially the biggest challenge, and probably still the challenge, is that we're trying to take information that has traditionally been geared towards the retiree or pre-retiree, because the industry, the financial services industry, has really kind of been geared towards the 55 and up. That's kind of like the target market, because typically those folks have at least $500,000 if they've done well. So it's like 55, 500,000. That's kind of like the minimum target is typically what our industry focuses on, which is kind of sad, because what that means is that younger folks that are up and coming that don't have that level of wealth often don't necessarily have access to folks, with our level of expertise and skill. And so we're changing that. We don't have investment minimums, but I do have a mindset minimum. so,
Oh, there we go.
Criteria that we go through, and
Don't just breeze over mindset minimums. I don't want to cut you off, but what is a mindset minimum?
So I would say for me, the mindset minimum is one, you recognize that you don't know it all, right? You don't know what you don't know until you know. And I think you have to be at a place where, you're good at what you do, but you can't do everything. And being able to partner with other people in your life that can help you along the way, I think is very, very powerful. I'm of the mindset, focus on my areas of strengths, delegate my areas of opportunity, or partner away my areas of opportunity. And so one, you recognize that, hey, you need help, right? We can improve. There are folks that we work with that are doing exceptionally well, but we can always do better, because you're focused on your career, you're focused on your family. There are always areas that we can improve, and that's great. So the other area is that when we recognize that there's a problem, you're willing to implement a strategy towards mitigating that challenge, or improving towards that goal. So we're not just taking the information in, but we're executing on it, right? And we're not just executing. You have to understand why it is that this particular solution or this implementation of this strategy is going to benefit you, and you have to have the financial wherewithal to be able to implement that strategy, right? And so it's not enough to just know and hear, right? It's enough to act. So we want to promote action amongst our clients. So those are the top two areas that we work with our clients. You recognize there's a problem, you're willing to go out there and implement strategies. And the other thing is that you're chasing upward mobility, right? So the idea that whether it's, you're learning you're learning something new in your career, on your career path, or in your educational endeavors, whether it's a new degree, whether it's another certificate or certification, or you're just learning something new. Like, we want to work with folks that are hungry to move beyond where they are, right? Like, if you're just fine with the status quo, look, if you meet the other two, maybe we may still work with you, but really what excites me is work with individuals that are hungry to just be better than where they are today, and to improve.
Love it.
And there's one more piece.
Yeah, come on.
The last piece is that, as you're building and acquiring wealth, that we're also thinking about the communities in which we live, and that we're giving back to those communities, and trying to make the world better than it was when we came, right, within our sphere. So I think that's the piece that is missing for a lot of folks, and we want to help be a champion of that. We're very fortunate that we get to give to so many great organizations, and so we do believe in as you're pursuing success, it's not just about you, but it's about the impact that you can make, not only in your family, but in your communities at large.
Love it. I'm still in mindset minimum. I might come up with a new keynote around that. There's a lot of things we talk about, qualifiers for prospective clients. Want to be at a certain income, certain demographic, certain business model, whatever. But mindset, like, at a minimum, you have to have a growth mindset. At a minimum, you have to have an abundance mindset. At a minute, that's actually an interesting concept. That sounds like an idea worth spreading. Yeah. I have a meter out for ideas. We're getting so many amazing applications coming in. By the way, if you submit your application and we have received it, It's going through a creation process with our team. Just love to see people in their brilliance, to submit things that I've never considered or thought of, and even old information presented in new ways. Scripture says nothing is new under the sun. Old information presented in new ways is still very valuable in these times. And so if you have an idea, make sure you head over to TEDxAlexanderPark.com. I'll put it here on the screen, TEDxAlexanderPark.com. And you can submit an application to be on the live show or to be a part of the main event. Okay, let's dive into the individuals that are watching this and are like, I only can speak from experience. I remember when I first got approached by a financial planner, and I can't remember what company it was. It was a reputable company, but my first initial instinct was like, oh, why would I give you money to help with my money? Why don't I just invest directly, learn it myself? I understand now this is limiting belief, but would love to hear why you feel like it's important. When will people know is the right time? Like, do they have to be at a certain place financially to be able to bring on a financial planner?
Yeah.
And kind of let you dive into some of that.
Sure. So let me tackle the first question first. When we work with our clients, in a number of capacities. So it may be a situation where we're literally just providing comprehensive financial advice, right? So we're we're dissecting their entire financial picture. We're understanding what their goals and priorities are. We're helping them to prioritize those goals, based on importance and time frames to the goals. And we're just providing advice, right? And they're the ones that's implementing the strategy, or they're working with another individual, whether it's a family member that they have an affinity for, whatever the case may be, and they're implementing the strategy for the client. I would say that's more rare. Typically, if we're putting together, we're spending at least 10 plus hours putting together this comprehensive plan for the client, they typically want us to implement the strategy. But again, it's up to them. We have those folks that are do-it-yourselfers, and it's okay to be a do-it-yourselfer, right? And so we can review what you're currently doing, understand what the objectives and the goals are, and we can put together a strategy for you so that you can look to see, okay, here's how we can improve this strategy. Whether it could potentially be in terms of performance, or maybe you're taking too much risk, right? You're driving too fast. Just because the car can go 170 miles per hour doesn't mean you have to drive that fast, right? We can get to our destination going 70 miles per hour. So sometimes we're helping folks on the amount of risk that they're taking. Sometimes it's a situation where we're looking at ways to mitigate taxes. Okay. And so if we can save you money on taxes, believe me, that goes a long way over time. And so that's one thing. So if you're a do-it-yourselfer, that's great. But it's like me, I'm really good when it comes to working out. The truth of the matter is I've been really bad about doing it lately. I did like 50 push-ups today, which is like half of my normal thing, but I'm getting back into it. But like, I know how to work out. Like, I know how to be physically fit.
Right.
But I remember one time I hired a coach. A couple times I've hired a coach, and the first time I hired a coach, I'm like, look, I know how to do what I'm doing. I'm great at this. And I remember I was on this new machine that I hadn't used before, but it was like an adaptation to another machine. It was like this, I think it was a leg press or something. And I'm doing this thing, and he's like, yeah, you're doing great. But then he was like, you know what? You need to make a slight adjustment. He said, because the way that you have your back arched or curved, it's going to put unnecessary pressure on your lower back, and that can lead to other problems in the future. Had he not been there, he would not have been able to see just that one slight, tiny adjustment that needed to be made that makes such a huge, deal in or impact in the performance of my workout. And it's the same deal. Like, he was looking at it from a different perspective, right? It's like when we're running a business, you're either in the business or you're working on the business. And so what we get to do when we partner with our clients is to help work on their personal business. Now, another question that you asked in terms of, hey, well, why is it important to work with a financial advisor? Well, let me tell you something. Statistically speaking, This was a study done by the Social Security Department. I can't remember what year it was, but you can go and look this out. Sorry, I don't have the particular reference, but it was done by the Social Security Department. But they were saying that when they ran the statistics, or when they looked at the numbers, those that have a plan save about 50% more over the course of their lifetime than those without a plan. Now that's huge. 50% is huge. Okay. So that's no small feat. And so it's just by being intentionally minimizing your risk here, intentionally saving a little bit more money here, intentionally saving money on taxes here. All these little things add up over time to big deals. Right.
Right. If you were to say, what were the top maybe 1 to 3 pitfalls that you see common in portfolios or people in the do-it-yourself camp, what would you say are usually those places that are the top 3?
I would say the number one is allowing their emotions to dictate their investment decisions. Right? I'll give you a good example. Take GameStop, right? Like, so GameStop a couple years ago at the beginning of the pandemic, there was this whole Reddit group that was that was trying to hype up GameStop. I guess what was happening is one of the major companies, or several of the major companies, that was trying to short the stock. And when you short the stock, the idea is that you're basically betting that the stock is going to go down, and the more it goes down, the more you make money. So you had these large investment firms betting against GameStop, and then you had these just like random folks like you and I, right? All band together. They put out some information out there, and they like got the price of GameStop to just freaking go insane, right? And so what happened is that you had these young folks and older folks as well that saw the price of that the movement and the excitement around that stock, and they just started getting in. Well, by the time they got in, the price had already been elevated, and they just like over invested, and then the price came down, and a lot of folks lost money. And so it's that herd mentality, right? And so I think when it comes to investing, you have to be very cognizant about your emotions. And I think you have to have a certain amount of principles, right? So that you have these safeguards built in. A good example is when I was younger in my career back in 2010. So I hadn't even been in business barely a year. BP had we had the BP oil spill. And that stock dropped from like $72, or I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of like $69, $72 in April, all the way down to maybe $28, maybe $24 at the lowest point, the trough. And I was investing personally, and I had, hey, this is how much. This is the percentage that I can invest towards this category. And I went over that percentage slightly, but I ended up stopping myself. And this is what I said. I literally had a conversation with myself in the mirror. I said, Samuel, here's your deal. Okay. You have to follow the principles that you've set forth for your clients. And here's the deal. You're probably going to be successful on this particular investment, but there's going to come a time where the same thing is going to happen, and you're going to put more money and a higher percentage, and it may not turn out that well. So you just have to be disciplined in your approach. And, I did make money on that, but I didn't really make a lot of money. I made my money back. I didn't have a loss. I made some money, but it wasn't that big of a deal. And even to today, that stock has never recovered. Right. But we studied the Valdez Exxon spill that happened in the 80s. I looked at how that stock performed, how it went down, how it came back up. We just didn't see that same performance with that particular stock. So principled in your investment decisions.
That's good. So I got a little bit of a curveball here, and if this is not okay, just veto the question, but it came up, so I always want to ask it. And by the way, y'all, like, one of the things I love about my life is the ability and the opportunity to talk to people from so many different worldviews. And one of the things that sometimes appears to be opposing, I don't believe that it is, but it sometimes appears to be, is people who believe in law of manifestation, they believe in law of attraction, those types of things, who may make the argument that it is more beneficial for one to manifest than it may be to work with a financial planner. Would love to know your thoughts on the wealth consciousness and using your mind and imagination to visualize and attract those things that you seek, and actually knowing what you're doing.
No, I think I get where you're going with the question.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I'll share a little bit from my perspective, just my own personal experience, because
Let's do it.
literally parents come into this country starting from ground zero.
Right.
Okay, like my dad was, politically he was pretty important back in his country, right,
Mm,
of South America. And when he came here, literally you're starting back from scratch, and
mhm,
it's like in this country you're nobody. So,
mhm,
and then you have to deal with, just building from the ground up. And
mhm,
what my parents did for us is they instilled work ethic. They instilled being people of integrity. They instilled, this is, the best piece of advice my dad ever gave me was, he told me right when I had graduated high school, and I was about to go into the tech field. My girlfriend at the time was going to, I think, some tech school, and I was going to do like information systems or something, and or computer science or something like that. And I really didn't want to do it, right? I was just kind of doing it because she wanted me to do it, and I didn't, I was thinking about heading in that direction. And my dad said, "Look, son," he said, "this is America. This is the land of opportunity."
mm,
He said, "You can do anything in this country and be successful." He's like, "You can sweep floors, right? And you can be a millionaire." He said, "Just find something that you're passionate about, that you love, that you would be willing to do for free, and pour your all into it."
mhm,
And I've taken that advice, and every single decision that I make in life, I make it partly through that lens. So if it's
mm,
even someone comes to me and say, "Samuel, I have an investment opportunity," I start thinking, hey, is this something that I love? Is this something that I would love, that I'd be willing to do for free? So if not, maybe I don't want to invest in that, right? But in terms of law of attraction and this thing, I believe in the Bible. Like that's the foundation. Those principles that are in there. That's how I live my life. And dictate my actions. And so, there are several areas in the text where, one of them is, in Habakkuk, write the vision, make it plain.
mhm,
And so I believe you have to have a vision for your life.
mhm,
And I believe, it's so funny. I was talking to my wife a couple months ago, because she ended up, we were able to enable, to get her to start and open up her own private practice. And I had a conversation with her. I said, "Honey, we are now living the life that I've dreamed about."
mhm.
We just celebrated 16 years this past Saturday. It's
Oh,
taken
congratulations.
old, thank you, to this point.
Mhm,
And we're living the life that we've dreamed about. And we had to be intentional about that. And that was having a vision. That was a lot of hard work. That was planning over a 16-year period. And it didn't
mhm,
it didn't happen in the same time frame. I was thinking like 10 years. It didn't happen in the same time frame, but the fact that it happened is a beautiful thing, right? And now it's like, okay, now how do we plan for the next 16 years, right? And the next
yeah,
5, the next 10, and so forth. And it was being intentional. So I was, one, having a vision. One of the things that I do is I make time in my day, to a friend of mine. He calls this time traveling. To be still, be quiet, and think
mm,
about the life that I want to live, right? For
mhm,
myself, for my family, for my clients, for my community. And I try to get as detailed as possible in that. So I try to transform myself to the future and literally think about, uh, you know, I include colors, I include smells, I include sounds, I include sight. I've envisioned myself on a stage speaking to folks, encouraging folks with, thousands out in the audience. I've had little conversations with myself. I do talk to myself in the mirror. I'm not crazy. I think so people should talk to themselves, because sometimes we're the only voice.
You walking down the street talking to yourself in the mirror.
You do it sometimes in your own, but I've had situations. I remember the first time I got laid off. When I first got into this industry, I remember the first time I got laid off, and I looked at, and it was shocking, because I was always like a top performer, and I always had all these accolades and awards, and I got laid off. And I remember having to go to the mirror, and I had to like jack myself up and say, bro, like, you're not a loser. You're a winner. You're a winner. You're a winner. It's like you have to psych yourself up. And so, but yeah, I think about what it is, what type of life I want. And it's not necessarily about, oh, I want to have X amount of dollars in the bank, or, oh, I want to do this. One of my prayers is, God, please bless me so that I can impact nations. Bless me so that I can be a blessing to nations. Because if I'm successful enough to be a blessing to nations, trust me, my family's taken care of, my community's taken care of, right? So I believe the other piece is, I don't think you can just attract something, right? I think you got to do the work, right?
Absolutely.
I think the mind is a powerful thing, and the words that we speak are very, very powerful. So if you even think about the creation of this world, and I don't want to, get into, get
into it, man. What's up?
Creationist versus evolutionist, right? I don't want to get into that, right?
I got you. Yeah,
but
yeah.
if from my perspective, if you look at, what the Bible says around how the world was created, okay? If, literally God spoke this world into existence, he thought about it in his mind first, and then he spoke it into reality. And so one of the things that I told my boys, I have Isaiah just turned 5 this week. Samuel turned 7 2 months ago. I tell them, I said, son, be very careful the words that you speak, because your words will create your worlds.
Absolutely.
Your words will create your worlds. The words you speak has the power to create realities. And we know life and death is in the power of the tongue. So I think that we have to be very careful about what we think about, speaking into existence, and then do the work that it takes to accomplish the goals that you have. I can tell you, when you speak to successful people, one thing you will learn is they have been through a lot of toil. Many successful people have almost went bankrupt, or have been bankrupt a couple times. Many successful people have almost lost it all. Like, going from here to where you want to be is not necessarily an easy task, especially if you're pushing yourself beyond the average individual, right, in society. And so just being mindful that you don't just wake up one day, you thought about something, you spoke, and then all of a sudden you're living your dream life. My wife and I, we were both in grad school before we had kids. We waited to have our firstborn son, Samuel. He was born 2 months before our 9-year anniversary. So during the first almost 9 years of our marriage, we were working on our career. We were working on enhancing our skill sets. We didn't go on vacation for a long time. We were having dates at Panera Bread. Our dates was Panera Bread and Starbucks while we were both studying in grad school. Like, we made a lot of sacrifices. And I remember my wife saying, Samuel, my friend's going on this trip and my friend's going on that trip. And I said, you know what, here's the deal. That's fine and dandy. And I'm not saying not to vacate while you're, waiting to achieve success, because we did go on some vacations. But what I am saying is that, I'm 39, and I have worked and gotten to a point to where all the sacrifices that I've made earlier on, when I wasn't doing a lot of things my friends were doing, now I can do that. And I've kind of achieved financial freedom much earlier than the average individual in this country. And that was not due to me winning the lottery. That was due to me working extremely hard, having a lot of sacrifices, being very intentional, right? And putting in the work, the work ethic.
Wow. That was a masterclass there. Dropped a lot of gems too. I hope y'all caught a lot of that. If you caught any of it resonated, make sure you comment in the chat. If you're watching the replay, #replay, let us know that you're watching the replay. We'll be happy to engage with you. Want to start to kind of land the plane here. I was going to ask you one more question about something that really stood out throughout the course of our conversation to me, that I'd love to hear a little bit more about. And then we can go ahead and, say our goodbyes to our audience. But it's this concept of upward mobility. When you said that, what did you mean by that?
Yeah,
And kind of break that down in terms of the importance of having that within your financial landscape.
sure. So when I think of upward mobility, I think of an individual that's doing what's necessary in order to move to the next level in their life, right? It all boils down really to having a vision for your life. Okay. If you don't have a vision, then you're never going to achieve what you want to achieve, right? And here's the deal: even if you do achieve, say, financial success, somewhere in the neighborhood of 70 to 80% of people that inherit a large sum of money go bankrupt within 3 to 5 years. If you look at the average athlete, they're bankrupt
Mhm,
within 3 to 5 years. And you think, how can
mhm,
this person have all this money and go bankrupt?
mhm,
Because you have to build the mental stamina and
mhm,
wherewithal and emotional stamina and
mhm,
wherewithal to handle the burden of building wealth and managing,
mhm,
right? And so I think that, when I talk about upward mobility, and this is what I love, right? There are folks that they have these niches, and I'm not saying anything wrong about a niche or a niche, however you want to say it, tomato, tomato, but they're targeting specific groups of individuals, attorneys, doctors, etc. Right? We don't care, because as long as you are saying, hey, you know what? All right, I graduated college. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But I'm working this job now, but I want to do more. Maybe it's you want to start a business, and I'd say about 70% of the clients that we work with are business owners. Okay, I
mhm,
guess because we're business owners, we maybe attract other people that are like-minded, right? Not that you have to be a business owner to work with us, but we work with a lot of business owners, and so if you're looking to start a business or you're looking to just improve where you are, right? There are degrees out there, there are certifications, there are licenses, there are things that you can do. Heck, you can read books, right? You can go get mentored. The idea is that when you see yourself in 5 years and in 10 years, you're not in the exact same place that you are today, right? Unless you've reached and arrived, unless you've arrived to where you want to be. That's a different story, right? But it's so funny, you had asked me a question earlier about what are some things that people can be doing for to be financially fit. And I'll say this: one of the most important things that one can do, whether it's a couple or single person, is live below your means. And when I say live below your means, I don't mean to say, well, don't enjoy life, but I'm just saying that to be very intentional about how you spend your money and to track your money, like know where your money is going. And there are ways that there are things that you can implement um, within your life so that you can kind of put up guardrails around your spending habits, right? Things such as, hey, you know what, if I'm going to go buy a house, well, how much of a house should I buy? The reality is when you look at the goals that you have for your family, just because the bank will approve you for a certain amount of money doesn't mean that that's financially wise to get
mhm,
that size of a house or spend that much on a house, right?
mhm, mhm,
Maybe you could have your cake and eat it too. So maybe if you want a certain size house, maybe you just move out a little bit, to get a similar house for the. So there are things that you can do, and I'm not trying to, tell people what to do, but one of the I'd say the best things that my wife and I did as we were ascertaining and working towards upward mobility in our life is that we fashioned our lifestyle around one of our incomes.
mhm, mhm,
That way, if one of us got laid off, we still had the financial wherewithal to maintain our standard of living and our lifestyle, right? Even if
mhm,
we had to cut back on some things, that also enabled us to take, one of our incomes and use it towards, the future, right? Whether it was investing, whether it was vacations, or whether it was towards our educational goals and attainment. So, you
mhm,
know, living below your means goes such a long way, because it's not about how much money you make. It's what you do. It's how much money you keep, and then what you
mhm.
do with the money you keep. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, this has been loaded. Wow. So appreciate your time. I think just to lighten it before we land here, like the prepare for landing, let's just do a little rapid fire round called this or that. All
Oh,
right. So I'm going to list off two options and you have to just pick. You cannot explain. You cannot rationalize. You just have to go with your gut. Are you ready?
Let's do it.
Apple or Android?
Apple.
Hot weather or cold weather?
Hot weather.
Fishing or kayaking?
Kayaking.
Fantasy or drama?
Fantasy.
Football or basketball?
Basketball.
Atlanta or California?
Atlanta.
California or New York?
California.
New York or Hawaii?
Hawaii.
Call or text?
Text.
Speaking of which, if people are looking to get a hold of you, how can they do that?
Sure. You can reach out, go to our website. It's www.nvestfit.com. And it's kind of like taking invest and fit, leave the I off of there. We were trying to be creative here. It's Nvestfit. Yeah, all of our contact information is there. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'd love to help you along the way on your journey and help you, grow, build, manage, and leave a legacy.
Love it, love it, love it. Thank you so much for sharing your time and your wisdom. You are full of insights and could talk to you for hours. Really appreciate your time today.
I appreciate
Really encourage you to get involved, connect with us at TEDxAlexanderPark. If you haven't done so, make sure you head over there. You can apply to be a part of this live stream series. You can also apply to be a part of the main event that's taking place February 25th at the Eagle Arts Theater in Sugar Hill, which is in Gwinnett County, Metro Atlanta is what we call it. So really would love for you all to be a part of it, whether it's from a volunteer standpoint, an attendance standpoint, or you're looking to be a part of the show. So this has been great. We have tons of these interviews lined up, and man, so great to hear from amazing minds like Samuel. So thank you again for your time, and we will see y'all next time. Take care.
Thank you. Take care.